August 4, 2025, Common Council, City of Connersville. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilor Diana Phillips.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'd like to remain standing for invocation.
Gracious God, we come before you tonight seeking your guidance for as we direct the city. And we just ask that your blessings are upon us as we work to endeavor the good of our town. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to welcome everyone. I want you to turn your cell phone ringers off. We'll begin with roll call.
Yes, we will. Councilman Gray.
Present.
Councilman Collins.
Present.
Councilwoman McQueen. Present. Councilwoman Barrett.
Present.
Councilman Williams Jr.
Present.
Councilwoman Phillips.
Present.
Councilman Rob.
Present.
Okay, everyone has the minutes from the July 21st, 2025 regular meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those? If not, entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Going into new business, we have, up first, we have Adam Stone from Stone Municipal.
Hey, Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Let me share my screen here. I've got a couple different aspects. I got a couple updates for the council tonight with respect to SB1, the new kind of property tax reform. So I wanted to share my screen and go through some slides here and provide council an update as it relates to not only the 2026 budget, but also going forward. So let me share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so a couple different things. We want to cover some of the significant changes from the new law that was just passed, as well as some considerations and things we have as it goes to 2026. As far as property tax reform goes, there's a couple different aspects. One, business personal property. The biggest thing right now is that there's an elimination of the 30% depreciation floor for new equipment placed in service after January 1st, 2025. So this was a retroactive adjustment. Essentially, the way it currently right now, there's a de minimis $80,000 minimum valuation threshold. So anything amount below that amount is exempt from business personal property tax. That is being raised to $2 million. So for businesses that are investing less than $2 million in kind of FF&E, fixed furnitures and equipment, or other items, they are essentially exempt from business filing a business personal property tax return going forward. This is a threshold amount, so if it's a $3 million or $4 million investment, it still would trigger the tax. But that goes into effect. This is largely not really a major issue for the city. In your current certified net assessed value, it's about 1% of your total tax base. So not as significant as other communities, but just wanted to let you know this is one area of change. The second area, and this is one that you will have some exposure to, is not the new residential homestead real property phase-in. So the standard deduction phases out over the next 5 years. It's replaced with a supplemental homestead deduction up to 2/3 of the home's value or 2/3 of the certified net assessed value. So in addition to that, there's a new homestead tax credit, supplemental tax credit, additional $300 per property. That's calculated at the lower of 10% or $300, whichever is lower. And then additionally at the county level, there's some additional credits that may apply. This is homestead properties are approximately 37% of the city's tax base currently. It's one of the largest exposure areas that you have beyond the local income tax change as well. So from a homestead property taxpayer, This is really a new opportunity for them to kind of offset or decrease some of the increases in assessed valuations that they've seen, as well as pick up the additional credit. From the city's perspective and the budget planning perspective, where this is a challenge is that it's a significant portion of your tax base that pays for police, fire, EMS, et cetera, that these revenues are now going to impact those sort of areas, or anything from really general fund. Additionally, about 40% of your tax base is in non-homestead. So this is residential property that is not owner occupied. So it could be it could be like vacation homes, second homes, rentals, etc. They have an entirely new deduction that they qualify for. This did not exist prior. It starts at 6% next year and ramps up to 1/3 of the gross assessed value by 2031. So the additional way to reduce taxes paid on residential property. One of the most significant areas in the bill is that it completely reforms local income tax. It lowers the county total maximum cumulative rate from 3.75 to 2.9%. It also institutes changes relative to home rule options. So the county could pursue a local income tax rate of 1.2%. The city could enact a 1.2% local income tax that's specific to its boundaries. The county can enact up to a 0.4 to be shared with all the fire protection and EMS service providers. And then all the non-municipal taxing units collectively cannot exceed 0.2. So a few structural changes on this. One is it eliminates the flow through. So right now, local income tax or LIT is collected at the county level and then shared pro rata to the units based on their percent of levy. Going forward, this will be more of a unit by unit adoption. And as of right now, if Connersville Council does not make any sort of adjustments here, 100% of the local income tax will go away beginning in January 2028, which would be pretty significant from the budget perspective. Local income tax is the number 2 revenue source behind property tax revenue today, and it is its majority of that is receipted to the general fund. So all those general fund departments benefit from this revenue source today, and it is currently set to go to 0 by 2028. So the reason we're bringing it up tonight with respect to the 2026 budget is that as we start looking into departments' requests at the next month, we intend to have draft budgets. We're making the final changes with departments this month. Expect to have draft budgets to council for review as early as the end of this month and up for adoption no later than the end of October. The local income tax we're not going to be immediately seeing a change in that next year or even in 2027, but left unchanged, in 2028 it does go away. So one of the things we'll have to be working with council on in subsequent agendas is, conversations around the city council's willingness to enact a local income tax, as well as kind of plans around that and sort of the pros and cons and impacts there. And we would just suggest that from a budgetary standpoint, until there's clarity on that direction, really, just want to be abundantly cautious on any sort of new position planning or major sort of budget increase planning, just because, again, it is such a significant revenue source. And if it was to go away, there would be a massive budgetary adjustment that would have to follow downward in order to sort of make sure everything stays in balance. Certainly, fund balances can be used for a period of time, but they're not a long-term strategy. The other thing that has changed with respect to local income tax is that the bill did away with sort of a set it and forget it policy. It is now an annual reenactment, at least in the current version of the bill, and would have to be sort of reapproved each year. And going forward, the budget will become its own separate agenda item. So this doesn't go into effect this year, but in future cycles, we will have to have one council meeting per year that the only thing on the agenda is the budget. There were a ton of changes with respect to the levy appeal. As you know, every year we look at this. There's a couple different ways that the maximum levy can be appealed for the city. One of those goes away. So one of the more commonly used ones here in the last few years was an AB growth appeal. For communities such as Connersville that was growing, this was an opportunity to, for the council to decide if they needed to adjust their levy to fund new growth. And in this case, that went away. Did not impact the other levy appeals, so you still have annexation appeals if you were to annex property, as well as correction of error and financial emergency appeals, but the levy growth appeal completely went away. So in a scenario where you have a community that's growing faster than, let's say, 4% per year, they really now have no way to adjust their funding, so other than the ones I just mentioned. So if you have you have to find a way to fund that growth in another way. So in a lot of respects, that really ties department requests sort of to that sort of levy sustainable growth rate. And for the next few years, that's around about a 4%, but that's before circuit breaker, which we're going to talk about here in a second. So the real kind of revenue growth rate is lower than that. And when you take the AB growth appeal off, we have to kind of be very mindful of, you know, what's causing the increase in cost. So, you know, we talked about circuit breakers. Just as a refresh for the audience, the amount of levy that the council approves in its budget process does not necessarily mean that your taxes are going to go up. In the state of Indiana, homeowners have property tax cap protection. So if you have a $200,000 assessed property in Connersville, you have a 1% tax cap, so that's 1% of the assessed value of the property, meaning that by law you cannot pay more than $2,000 per year to all the different service providers, city, county, schools, etc. Well, where that gets challenging is, you know, if the tax rates in this case, after the deductions, you know, levy $2,500 of taxes on that property, then they still only pay $2,000. There's a $500 circuit breaker that everybody shares. And in Connersville, as well as the county and the schools, have properties that are in circuit breaker. And as a result of this property tax reform, we do anticipate that circuit breakers will continue to increase. As circuit breakers increase faster than the maximum levy growth increases, that translates to net revenue reduction. So for example, if the maximum levy, the gross levy, can grow at 4% next year, but the circuit breaker grows at 20% next year, then the circuit breaker is outgrowing the revenue growth, right? So we have to sort of adjust for that. So on a net basis, things can still kind of increase, but they're diluted by that circuit breaker. And then the most extreme example, you could at least see cases where the circuit breaker is a majority, if not all, of the maximum levy, just based on the way the calculations in the law is written. So, you know, circuit breaker is a pro rata share based on tax rate in the district. So this is just a quick modeled scenario here, assuming sort of a $2.13 tax district and kind of spread out across the way. What I was trying to show here is when we model the homestead and non-homestead credits from 2026 to 2031, you know, the net assessed values then essentially kind of go down. I'm assuming no other changes here. I'm just isolating on the bill. So I'm assuming no other growth, no other inflation. I'm just looking at the bill kind of layered in. The only assumption I did make was I assumed that this example unit takes the maximum levy each year. And in that scenario, the tax rates essentially double as a result of SB1. So certainly growth, AB growth specifically, would counterbalance that to some extent. as well as the individual units, councils and fiscal bodies' decision to either adopt the max or less, obviously would play a role as well. But in this simple example, you can see how the relationship between new assessed value deductions and sort of just constant flat levy growth still leads to an increase in tax rates. So what that ends up doing is it has sort of a counter effect on some of the tax savings, but then additionally, that means larger circuit breakers for communities that are already in a circuit breaker scenario. So the next few slides look at the illustrative impacts. So in this case, you can see that the supplemental homestead credit, which is currently $48,000 with a supplemental of $37,500, those sort of, so the homestead credit goes to zero and it's replaced by an expanded supplemental of 2/3 by 2031. So the key point here is while we're talking about the 2026 budget, this is really a multi-year phase-in of just this bill. So, we're having to make sure that we balance not only 2026, we have to keep that in line with kind of where these things are going, because really you can only see we're about halfway phased in with the deductions. We have a long way to go with respect to how these values are going to continue to be compressed. So this runs the math through assuming a $200,000 gross assessed value property. It shows what the deductions would have been in the previous law, current law, and then a change in the net values on a net basis, as well as sort of sample tax bills with and without the credit, as well as sort of increasing how the increasing tax rate can sort of offset that to some extent. The non-homestead credit, this impacts your sort of rentals and non-homestead properties. In this case, we can see how the new deduction comes into play. Currently, there was no deduction, it goes up to 1/3. In that perspective, you can see kind of what the new deduction kind of translates to and how that would impact actually tax flows as well. Going high level here, but you can see sort of what we're trying to plan and work through. As far as kind of budgetary best practices for 2026, right now we're just encouraging everyone to sort of just get the requests, see what things are, but not really commit to anything. It's just too early. We're still waiting on the final 2026 certified net assessed values from Fayette County Auditor's Office. We should have those anytime. We're working with them, and it's just a matter of getting the final numbers. Within the next week or couple weeks, we'll have the local income tax estimates for 2026. Those two things alone will allow us to really start to get a good idea of the majority of the revenues for next year, as well as we'll work with the clerk treasurer to put together the other revenues, local revenues, departmental revenues, et cetera. And that'll give us an idea of how much. And that's one of the reasons why, while we have had initial meetings with all the department heads and are happy to share sort of the initial department estimates with council as early as now, we really don't have a revenue. We won't have a revenue picture until the end of this month. A lot of those estimates just are not available yet because they're 2026 estimates, and we're only in early August of 2025. So we don't want to, put the estimate out there so early that it's too conservative, right? So working through that, we did get the maximum levy and estimated circuit breaker amounts for 2026. The maximum levy growth, the max amount that can be approved but for an appeal is 4%. So in a world where Connersville has 0 circuit breaker, that's how much your property tax revenue can grow next year. You're approximately about a 40 and 50% circuit breaker city, which means that you get about half of that in real growth. So that's 2%. That's before change in circuit breaker, and unfortunately the circuit breaker is coming up as a result of this bill, and it increased 21% year over year. So that is an estimated amount, we won't know a final until April of 2026, and it is rather conservative. It assumes no growth, and it assumes every single unit this budget season adopts the maximum levy. So we think the 20-ish% increase is maybe slightly high, and we'll come in a little lower than that, but budgetarily we have to work through that. We'll have to model that, and we'll have to show kind of how that want to stay, we live within those sort of means. So putting this all together is we've got the new homestead credits begin in 2026. That is again the lesser of 10% of the tax bill, or $300. That's estimated as a new credit, a new reduction in the amount of revenue that you can receive of $218,000. And that is before the new deductions. This is a brand new credit. So the additional increase in circuit breaker beyond that $218,000 is a result of the new deductions starting to phase in as well, with some of the early phase-ins happening in 2026. The growth appeals went away. We have had early exposure to some of the assessments for 2026. Generally, they look like they are up, but we are waiting to get the certified amount from Fayette County. From a firm perspective, we are expecting tax rates sort of much across the board to increase over 2026, 2027, 2028 as a result of these the AVs going down, the levies staying largely the same. What that means is that as tax rates go up, your circuit breaker is going to go up. So your tax rates increase, but your actual property tax collections may actually decrease. So we're looking at about a $6.5 million circuit breaker in 2026. Which is about a 21% year-over-year increase, far beyond inflation. So we are right now projecting property tax revenues or net levies to stay flat to decline as a result. And we will be modeling local income tax through 2026 and 2027. We would highly suggest that the council start thinking about workshops and conversations around municipal lit, decision, and we're happy to have those conversations with you all and help educate on what the sort of pros and cons are. But that's a critical assumption, because as of right now, if that goes away, that is one of the most significant impacts of the bill, is that a major revenue source would go to zero without that local inaction. From a budget timing perspective, we have a little bit more work to do with the department heads, share the drafts with them, and then ultimately make sure that we get drafts out to council here within our goal is by the end of this month, you have all of the estimates, and then we will be working towards a public hearing, formal kind of presentation of the budgets in mid-September with adoption, second reading tentatively in October. So a lot still to work through. The bill made a lot of changes. It's a very complicated bill. It's about 345 pages long. One of the challenges we have with it is that it didn't go to study committee. A lot of the prior bills had been thought about and studied. There's a lot, I think, that the bill falls short on, and I think that there will be plenty of people that want to think about it and stuff like that. But as of today, it is state law, and we need to work through it and need to navigate it. I know that was a lot, but I'm happy to answer any questions or provide any other follow-up tonight that may be helpful.
Adam, can you send that slideshow out to everybody?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
So, just from a planning perspective, because you know me, I'm always looking at next year, I'm also looking out 3, 4, 5 years. Looks like to me, the impacts for next year is not as bad as it will be as going forward. So each year is going to ramp up and get harder and harder for us to budget. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's right. I would say the way I describe this is, SB1 the new law as it's written goes out to it starts in 2026 and fully phases in 2031. So what that does not mean is that we have every single year we have to sort of deal with these waves of this thing. And the way I would explain that then is an analogy of we're getting pushed into the ocean, and right now we are just standing on the beach. We are just getting our sort of feet wet with the ocean, but we're going to have to be fully swimming in this thing by 2031. And I would encourage every council to start anticipating that there's gonna have to be some tough decisions, and there's gonna have to be a lot of creative conversations on how we fund some of these departments in sort of new and different ways. And, you know, and those conversations need to start happening now, just because, you know, those conversations may take a year or 2 or 3 to really kind of get themselves kind of worked out. So that's why we wanted to come and just kind of present this. You know, it is, while it is still new, it is coming, and we're already having to deal with it in the 2026 budget.
Well, we've taken the approach from early day one was nothing new. We're not promising anything. We're figuring out what our true, what I call hard costs are first. And then once we get actual numbers, we can figure out what we can do from there. So that is approach, just so you know, we're taking as a city, because until I know what the income is, it's kind of hard to budget. And we just, that number is very complicated to figure out. I had to work on this nonstop since that law has been passed. And correct me if I'm wrong, but every time I talk to someone from the state, they can't figure it out either. It's very complicated. I don't know if you heard that, Adam?
Yeah, no, 100%. You know, we, unfortunately, I won't use the names, I just be respectful, but we had the opportunity to go do a sort of Q&A session with about 7 or so of the representatives the Friday before the next week's vote, final vote. And we had 2 or 3 questions. They weren't even really that complex questions. They were just like general questions about the bill to try to get an understanding of the impacts. And really the answers were not, answers were not there. So, you know, I think from at least my personal opinion is that the bill was not well understood, and or if it was, I think some of the far-reaching technical implications are just now starting to be understood. One of the two. And I think, I mean, the reality is, like, the bill touched every single parcel in the state of Indiana, right? I mean, so it's hard to get, you know, the language right across the board. There's a lot of funding and bonds outstanding on this bill that have reasons to you know, take issue with it. So we'll see how it all works out. I'm not a lobbyist. That's not what I do. You know, from my perspective, we are trying to understand the law, trying to make sure we can navigate it. You know, we have heard people say, hey, you know, I think we have 2 more legislative sessions and all that stuff. But from my perspective, we can't plan like that, right? This is the state law. This is what was passed. We have a community to run, and right now, until the law changes, we have to kind of make sure we don't overextend ourselves, and we make sure we don't get too far out in front, because the 2028 change of local income tax, I don't think enough communities are paying attention to that.
Well, anybody have any questions for Adam while he's here, by the way?
I'm just glad we've got you, Adam.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate that. This is it's going to take every single one of us. Frankly, this is a nuanced one. I mean, we're going to have to be super creative, and we'll keep you posted. We'll keep, you know, we're like the mayor said, we're studying this. We're working this from every side we can as well. You know, obviously nothing's going to change from our approach. Like, we're going to try to do everything we can do to bring you all a balanced budget that you can you know, review and react to and prioritize. Just wanted to let you know that that's probably going to get harder. It's already hard, and this bill makes that really hard. So we're just going to have to keep at it, and we will do everything we can do to bring options to you and bring creative solutions to you. But they're not, you know, there's only so much there that we can do.
Well, thank you for your time, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Devin. Thank you.
Yep, I'll send out the slides. I'll send those over to Rosemary and the mayor. They can distribute it. And obviously, if anyone has any questions, I know I went fast tonight just to be respectful of everyone's time this evening, but I'm happy to go one-on-one. I'm happy to meet. We're happy to talk through all this. I want to make sure everybody understands it, so that not only can you make good budget planning decisions, but you can also obviously talk to residents and constituents and understand it as well. So if you need anything, let me know. I'm happy to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, down to, we can take items B, C, D, E, and F together. Resolutions 2025-53, 54, 55, 56, and 57. Rosemary?
Resolution 2025-53 is a resolution to transfer $236,778.13 from Utilities Bank Safe to Water O&M. Resolution 2025-54 is a resolution to transfer $236,778.13 from Water O&M into Water Trust Indiana Fund. Resolution 2025-55 is a resolution to transfer $59,353.13 from General Bank Safe to the General Fund. Resolution 2025-56 is a resolution to transfer $8,500 from General into Fund Number 2486, the HELP Grant Fund. Resolution 2025-57 is a resolution to transfer $46,127.01 from General into First Aid Non-Reverting.
Any questions for Rosemary? I'll entertain a motion to pass resolution 2025-53, 54, 55, 56, and 57.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And we can take G and H together. We have pending ordinance 3993 and pending ordinance 3994. Rosemary?
Pending ordinance 3993 is a transfer within MVH, moving $5,600 from department heads to phone. Pending ordinance 3994 is a ordinance to transfer within the Parks Department, moving $8,000 from the fringe into insurance.
Any questions for Rosemary? If not, I'll take a motion to approve pending ordinance 3993 and 3994 on first reading.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Have a motion to suspend the rules.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Have a motion for a third and final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Down to item E, good night, I was gonna say E, item I don't know why I can't say that. Notice of taxpayer additional appropriation, fire pension fund, and police pension fund. Rosemary?
I've also added an edit fund, so just permission to advertise additional appropriations for the fire pension plan. I need an additional $36,000 for the retired firemen, $13,000 for the dependents to the deceased. And the police pension, I need $35,000 additional for the retired officers. And on the edit fund, I need $75,000 for the EDG.
Just needed permission to advertise.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Move on down to old business. Anyone have any old business? Miscellaneous business?
There's a exhibit opening Friday night to honor Hazel Ailes at the Whitewater Valley Arts Association.
Anything else? I know this Friday we have IPA Jazz from 8 to 10 p.m. at Market Street Plaza. Come out, have a good time. There'll be some food there too, correct, John, if I remember right? Yep. So there'll be food there as well. If you want to grab the local restaurant, grab some at the local restaurant, bring it out and have a good time, so.
Well, I will say that I went to the last one, the Oxford Brass, and it was really good.
It was good.
Enjoyed it, yeah, sure did.
That was a good test experiment for John and I. We designed that thing for acoustical performances as well, so the shape, everything is designed for sound to be broadcast. Even though we've got a powerful system there if we need, and it worked very well
It sure
for all
did. It did.
acoustics, so you could hear it. I kind of walked around the parking lot just to listen. I did a great job, so.
It was great, and people need to come out.
Yep.
And more will as they realize how good these
Yeah.
concerts really are.
Yeah.
Oh, the art stroll is also Friday night.
Yes, it's before this. So go to the art stroll and come over to IPA Jazz. So it's over at 7, isn't it? 7:30?
7:30.
So this is from 8 to 10. So go to the art stroll and come out for some good music. Anybody else? Anybody from the public? I don't see anybody out there. Do you, John? I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. On favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Have a good evening.